Good evening. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. What a wonderful night we have in store. I'm wondering, are there any dancers in the house? Could I hear some applause? 2 dancers in the house. And I'm also wondering, are there anyone here who has not seen West Side Story before? Okay, so we have some newbies here. On April 9th, 1962, at the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium, where the 34th Annual Academy Awards ceremony took place, a very young George Chakiris, flustered but composed, gave an acceptance speech for his win as Best Supporting Actor in West Side Story as follows. I don't think I'll try and talk too much. I just want to say thank you very, very much. When we bring him outstage tonight, 52 years later, I believe he'll have a good deal more to say about our movie, which won 10 Academy Awards that night in Santa Monica, his among them. He is one of 2 actors in all of Hollywood history to win an Oscar for a dancing role. The other, James Cagney, won for Yankee Doodle Dandy in 1942. His accomplished and versatile 50-year career reaches back to the 1950s, when he was one of Hollywood's most experienced chorus dancers, also called gypsies. He danced behind Marilyn Monroe in Jack Cole's Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend in Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, with Rosemary Clooney in Love, You Didn't Do Right by Me in White Christmas, which was choreographed by Robert Alton, with Mitzi Gaynor in A Sailor's Not a Sailor, in There's No Business Like Show Business. Co-stars have included Yul Brynner, Claudia Cardinale, Catherine Deneuve, Charlton Heston, Gene Kelly, Rita Moreno, Natalie Wood, Russ Tamblyn, Dirk Bogarde, Charles Boyer. So we're talking about a Hollywood legend. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming to our stage our star of the evening, George Chakiris. George. Please.
Hello.
George, welcome.
Thank you. So great to be here. My God, this huge theater. And all
Yes, indeed. Let's jump right into our dance conversation, if we may, by raising the name of someone who was very critical to your career, the choreographer Jerome Robbins, who conceived of and directed the stage play West Side Story and co-directed our film tonight. Can you share with us how Jerry cast you, first as Riff on the London stage?
Okay, I made a chancy trip to New York, and I turned out to be there in absolutely the right time. They were casting the London company of West Side. I went to I saw Ruth Mitchell, who was the stage manager. She looked at me and she said, I think you should read for Bernardo. So she gave me a script. I met Jerry, I read Bernardo, and then he asked me to look at the role of Riff. It took 20 minutes to look at the role of Riff. Came back and read for Riff, but anyway, to make a long story short, Jerry cast me as Riff in the London company of West Side Story. And when it came time to do the film, none of us ever thought we'd be even thought about for the film, but some of us were. And I have Jerry, I owe Jerry my life. It was Jerry who cast me as Bernardo in the film. So that was my way. I was so lucky to be in the theater version so quickly, and 18 months later to be in the film. That was an extraordinary, lucky time of life, and to meet Jerry.
Indeed. But when you were in London and you were auditioning for the movie, I read that you actually wanted to hang on to the role of Riff. You were reluctant to move to play Bernardo. Why was that?
Well, because I've been playing Riff, and I loved playing Riff. And it's so interesting because in the theater version, Riff is a wonderful part. Of course, it is in the film too, because for different reasons. The material was switched around. But I was so locked into loving the character of Riff, I thought, no, I don't want to play Bernardo, I want to play Riff. But of course, it didn't turn out that way. But I was just in love with playing Riff. I was having such a great time in the British theater.
And Bernardo suited you. I mean, in the end, you did win your Oscar for Bernardo. Do you think, and this may be a little tough for you to respond to, but do you think that as steeped as you were in the material of this play, having played both roles, do you think that gives reason why you pop so well and you did so well in the film?
Yes, because I did the show for a year and a half. I think I could have played Anita. You get to know... You get to know all the characters so well. You're absorbing it without even realizing it. So you become totally familiar with everything in the show. So I was playing opposite Ken Leroy, the original Bernardo, who was absolutely fantastic. I was opposite him every night. So I was absorbing all of that stuff. I wasn't trying to, but it made the transition not a difficult transition at all. It was a natural kind of move.
Wonderful. Now, George, I'd like to talk shop with you, so I'd like to talk about choreography.
Oh, okay.
You know, when we all watched the movie tonight, the first few moments are called the prologue of West Side Story. Isn't that the correct term for the opening?
Yes, prologue,
right.
Yes. Yeah.
And in the prologue, our first view of your character, Bernardo, you're standing, and your stance is a little hunched over. You're intense, you're hunched over, you're kind of gazing down. Who told you to stand like that, or did that come from you?
No one, Jerry didn't say stand like this or stand like, it was just in the course of what he staged for the opening. I suppose a photograph like that can be caught, a moment can be caught that makes you look as if you're caught in a particular frame of mind or thought.
Yes.
But I think it's just a small capsule of the entire piece.
Yes, but I just want to point that out, that we can all watch tonight how it's the dancer in George. He's so physical, and he's kind of absorbing body blows, psychological body blows from the Jets, who are kind of teasing him and egging him on. And just, it's all in his body language. There's a lot of tension in your body.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is. It's, you know, not just because you're a dancer, but I suppose because it was a staged, physically staged sequence, beautifully staged sequence by the incredible Jerome Robbins, that your body is, every part of you is being used.
Yes.
So the tension is always there, except for a moment when you explode.
Yes, and we're going to get to that,
Yeah.
because there is that moment when you do the iconic, George has, many of you have seen this picture of George. I think it's on our program, when his leg is in the dancer's second position, the raise the leg lift. What does that pose tell you about Bernardo as character?
I think that moment when it's Jay Norman on my right, Eddie Verso on my left, both wonderful, wonderful dancers. The three of us were together quite a lot in that opening sequence in the prologue, and we're coming down the street after we've been sort of smirked, or whatever the word, insulted by the Jets. So we're coming down the street with this intensity, and we come to this, and that the leg goes up in second. Excuse me, I'll take the mic away for a second. And our arms go out in second. That to me would say, this belongs to us too.
Wonderful.
So it's
Wonderful.
having your place in this difficult society.
And George, again, thank you. That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. There's an iconic moment also in the prologue where you, and I'm going a little bit backwards, this does come before, where you kind of slam against a red wall,
Yeah.
You bring your hand back and you put your fist in there and you give a real look into the camera. Did you work with Jerome Robbins on that moment?
Yes. It was a single shot on me. I think it was the very first shot we did. So I'm right by this wall. There's a camera here, and directly on the side of the camera is Jerry. And Jerry's presence meant everything to me, because his presence, he was such a perfectionist with himself first. He was ever spoken. He didn't say, hey, I'm a perfectionist, please do the same. It was just something you knew and you felt. So there was always this desire, I think, in all of us to please Jerry, because if we pleased him, we knew we were either right or close to being right. But that moment, I remember, it was an intense, close shot, and I knew what it was about, and I knew what that hitting, it was anger.
Yes, it was anger.
It was,
How many?
having been insulted and so on.
How many takes did you do?
I'm not sure, maybe 7, 6, 5, I don't remember.
And there's a little bit of West Side Story legend about, you know, how viewing the rushes on that sequence. Can you share that with us?
Seeing the rushes?
Yeah, that people were kind of pleased by how that came out.
Well, you know, Robert Relier, who was Bob Wise's assistant director, once there was a gathering at Paramount, I can't remember what it was for, and he was on stage speaking. I can't remember about what, but one of the things he said, it was absolutely news to me, he said about filming the prologue in New York, he said when they saw, and I guess it was the first thing we shot, he said when we saw that shot of George, I can't remember how he said it, but he said, I'm sorry, it sounds so terrible for me to say something like this, but he said, we knew we had something. So, I don't know, I guess that was it. But Robert Relier did say that publicly, and it made me feel so good to hear him say that, of course. Yeah, and I remember a couple of the kids had gone to the rushes, and the next day they came to me and they were looking at me differently. It's like, oh, George, you should have seen that. It was a lucky close-up. Let's put it that way.
It's a great close-up, indeed. So we're all going to see it in a very short time. So let's move on to the dance at the gym. And there you are, dressed in your smart black suit designed by Irene Sharaff.
Yeah.
Now, I heard there was some problem with that suit, a little tightness in the design of the suit.
Well, no, never a problem with the shoes. But in those days, there was no such thing as material that stretched. So in the dance at the gym, did something, and the pants split in back. So I had 2 pair of pants. So we changed, got the other pair, and before long, the second pair split. So the only thing to do was I had to put on a pair of black tights to wear under these split pants so that you wouldn't see any skin, you know. So, and thank God nothing else tore.
Wonderful. I just want to ask, it was part of the incredible innovation and invention in this material that you guys call out while you're dancing, the battle cry, Mambo, right? Was that fun to cry that out like that?
Is it what, sorry?
Was it fun for you guys as dancers to cry Mambo?
Oh, absolutely. Bump, yeah.
Please, let's go. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's show us. Let's do it.
It was a ball, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And now we'll move to America. And America, which in the stage production of West Side Story is danced only by women, but in the film there were some changes. Can you describe what happened in the film?
Well, first of all, in the stage version, Chita Rivera originated the role of Anita. She is such an amazing performer and dancer, so it made sense to give America to give it to Chita. I mean, she was, but in the film they wanted to, not because somebody else was better or not, but they wanted to integrate it with the guys, which made much more sense. It made it much more playful, and I want to be in America for the exchange between the guys and the girls, because the girls say you think it's so great there, or I'm sorry, but using the guys in the America number in the film that was one of the things that made a huge difference to playing Bernardo in the film, because that was a beautiful, beautiful number staged by Jerry, and being part of that number was a very strong part of being present in the film. So again, this thing of riff in the theater and riff in the film. Riff in the film is also fantastic. He gets to do Officer Krupke. I thought Russ is so wonderful. That Russ Tamblyn is so amazing as Riff. But Bernardo there's more meat on the bones in that role in the film. So I kind of had the best of both worlds playing Riff in the theater, and then getting to play Bernardo in the film. And the differences they had made just just made it better, a much more
And
wonderful
you're
role.
so marvelous with Cheetah in America.
Yeah.
You know, your repartee back and forth.
Yeah.
Were you, as a young man, a little shocked by the cynicism in Stephen Sondheim's lyrics? You know, buying on credit is so nice. One look at us and they charge twice. Were you, because you didn't grow up a cynical young man. You're not. You don't have that personality. Was it fun for you, or how did you relate to that?
It was fun,
Uh-huh.
and it was great fun. We had so much fun doing that number, and Bob Wise and Jerry, they loved it too, and they let us play. But for a small fee, but it's in fun, but you mean it.
Yeah, it's
Those
biting.
lyrics
It's
are
biting.
the truth.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. That's right. And before we leave America, you told me just a very interesting dance moment. You know, when dancers work with a choreographer, they get what are called corrections. They're constantly being kind of overlooked by their choreographer. And Jerry gave you a very subtle correction when you were working on America about the pirouette that you were doing.
There's one section where the three guys, do a little section, and there's a double turn. Not a hugely difficult thing to do, a double turn. And in the rehearsals, I was marking it, just doing one turn, because I hadn't found the traction on the floor. And after about 2, 3, 4 rehearsals, Jerry very, very quietly came over to me and he said, are you going to do one turn? I don't think so, but I love the way he quietly came over and said that. He made such a strong point, but it was quiet. It was quiet.
Well, see, that kind of conflicts with some of the scuttlebutt about Jerry Robbins with his cast. I mean, Jerry was very much in your corner. He clearly had his eye on George, having cast him in the theater and then brought him over. And you know, George he's so dazzling in this film tonight. Can you just clarify for the audience a little bit, or give a flavor, how that two-director thing worked with Bob Weiss and Jerry? What was Jerry's role and what was Bob's?
Well, what I remember is that, I'll go back when we were shooting the prologue, is that Robert Wise was on a ladder. Robert Wise was the experienced film man. Jerry had never done a film, so I always thought of Robert Wise as, I'll say, the father figure, and it was Jerry who was down on the floor with us, sending out those vibes, and he was the one who was working with us. I felt his presence, well, because it was his presence that you felt on the floor. And I'm always grateful to the fact that I think this collaboration between Bob Wise and Jerry was perfect, because to me, Bob was such a wonderful filmmaker, and Jerry, to me, there are two things that are, to me, kind of the heart and soul of West Side Story. The Leonard Bernstein score. I mean, how amazing is that? You feel so much just hearing the music. And the other thing is Jerry's choreography, because everything that Jerry choreographed was based on how the characters felt. And I think we feel that when we watch it. Jerry wouldn't do a step just to do a step. There had to be a reason for it, and he was brilliant at that.
Yes.
And really successful, I think, in the film.
Well, it's so fitting to be praising one of America's really genius choreographers here on the stage of the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, where there is so much dance history for our community. And I would like to just wrap up by praising you, George, by association. I'm going to tell a little story, share with the audience. Here on the Dorothy Chandler stage in 1965, soon after the Music Center opened, danced Rudolf Nureyev and Margot Fonteyn with the Australian Ballet. The Australian Ballet, which is coming back in the next season at Dance at the Music Center. Gloria Kaufman presents Dance at the Music Center. And it's not a strange association for me to couple you with Nureyev. I know you wish you were Nureyev, but the fact of the matter is that in 1961, before Rudolf Nureyev defected from the Soviet Union, when he was in Paris with the Kirov Ballet, 2 weeks before he defected, guess what movie he went to see in Paris? That would be West Side Story. And it's noted in both biographies of Rudolf Nureyev that Rudolf Nureyev was singing the Jet song and dancing down the Champs-Élysées after he saw the movie. Now, so I am actually making the case, well, I cannot make the case fully that seeing West Side Story caused Nureyev to defect to the West. But I think that to see West Side Story and to be turned on by the dance in West Side Story, and there are so many great dancers in West Side Story, but among them, premier is George Chakiris. So Rudy was looking at George. And I think that with that, George, we'll bid you a good evening, and we're going to go upstairs and watch the movie together. Is that okay? George Chakiris.